I was teaching myself to be a sculptor, a metal worker. I had been to General Dynamics welding school for a period of time and was a welder and had reached a point that I thought, well, I've been working by myself in my workshop, in my studio, that it might be good to work with some other folks. And I had known that there was a place called the Sculptor's Workshop. And I don't know who funded that, but it was in the old ICA building out on Soldiers Field Road. And it was a workshop. It was a grand old building, and maybe 5 or 6 people were working there. And I went to visit them, and I said, oh, this is interesting, and put it aside and kept up my work. And then 6 months or a year later, I decided to look into it a little further and went by the building, and it was shuttered and with some kind of identification sign, ICA. And I called up and I said, what's going on with the sculptor's workshop? I said, I'm sorry, it's no longer here, it's defunct. But now I said, well, what's going on with that nice building? He said, well, it's going to be turned into the Recycle Museum. And I said, what's that? And they gave a brief description that we go around to stores and people are going to collect toilet paper rolls and shoe boxes, and we're going to have all these things in one place and distribute them to schools. And oh, it sounds interesting. And I inquired who was running it, and it was Elaine, of course, and I called her up, and evidently the board at the ICA had voted on doing this and with some sort of budget 2 nights before, 3 days before, and I called up, and Elaine said, oh, okay, come on in. And I remember my first interview, I came in with my father's leather briefcase, and the only thing inside was the Yellow Pages. And this deeply impressed Elaine. And I told her I was working with steel, and I was going to factories, and I'd worked in a bunch of factories, and she said, you're the man. And so promptly I was hired, and I had you remember my old 55 Ford that I had cut the back seats out, so it was sort of like a little truck. And so 2 or 3 days a week I started with the Yellow Pages, and then graduated to the Mass Commerce Department or something, issued some sort of directory of industries. And I just started driving around and seeing what I could get and throwing it in the back of the truck in small amounts and bringing it back to the ICA building on Soldier Field Road. And then I think we were doing that for, I don't know, a month or so, and then you showed up. And I don't think I ever knew the details of how that occurred, but what I do recall was Elaine saying that you had offered her a job at the Children's Museum and thought Recycle would be a good place to be at the Children's Museum.